Last time we were talking about the kindness of other sentient beings, particularly the kindness of our parents, because we were doing the line that says, many times they have been a parent to me and shown radiant kindness to me. So we were talking about that. And that the next line in this text is very interesting. It says, how unworthy not to respond to their sorrow. Okay? Now, this is, you meditate on the kindness of other sentient beings, and then it says how unworthy of us not to respond to their sorrow. So there's very much a feeling that when we have received kindness, then it's our joyful obligation, our joyful responsibility to repay that kindness. In our culture, that's not always the case, Somehow in our culture, when people receive kindness, especially the kindness in our families, often people feel obliged to reciprocate, but it feels like a burden to them. Oh, somebody did something for me, so yeah, I guess I better do something back to help them, otherwise they're going to think really badly of me. So we have a certain self-centeredness that comes in there, that instead of seeing repaying kindness as something joyful to do, we see it as an obligation. Or also in our culture, if people talk about you've received kindness and so to repay kindness, especially when it concerns our family, we often say, but I didn't ask to be born, they were supposed to be kind to me. And besides, they didn't do this and this and this and this and this, which I really would have liked them to have done. And instead, we feel this sense of entitlement that we should have gotten more than we got. Yeah? Is this true or not true? It's true, isn't it? Yeah? So, I don't know how it is with the younger generation, but definitely with my generation, this was definitely the case for many people. And so when we hear how unworthy not to respond to their sorrow, one part of our mind goes, what do you mean, how unworthy not to respond to their sorrow? Are you trying to make me feel guilty? I'm not going to feel guilty. You're trying to make me feel ashamed. Yeah? And we have this certain kind of belligerence, that comes off, that I think we really have to work on. Yeah? Because without getting rid of that kind of belligerence, that attitude that sees repaying kindness as a heavy burden, without doing something with that mind, how are we ever going to become bodhisattvas? It's just not going to work, Bodhisattvas don't have a sense of entitlement that they should receive more and better from sentient beings. In fact, they see it exactly in the opposite way, that they want to give more and better to sentient beings. Yeah? In both Chinese Buddhism and Japanese Buddhism, there is a method for generating bodhicitta in which they go into quite a bit of depth, thinking about our relationships with different sentient beings and what they have given to us and how we have reciprocated. So there's a whole meditation where you start, can't remember who you start with, probably your parents, and thinking of everything your parents do for you, getting up in the middle of the night and, having to hold a job in order to feed you, and everything they do for us. And then for us to reflect on how we responded to our parents. Now, I don't know about you, but I was a brat. And I remember after one of my birthdays, when my parents had a very nice birthday party for me, at the end of the day, I went in the special corner in my room and cried because it was going to be another year before I had another birthday. That's what a brat I was, you know? And so, you know, we think about, you know, what our parents have done for us, and then how we have reciprocated, how we acted as children, you know, how we acted as teenagers, what we said to our parents, you know, our big mouths and how disrespectful we were and unappreciative we were, and not caring at all whether we hurt their feelings or anything like that. And so you really do a meditation on that and think about it. And after a while, you know, if you have any kind of conscience, you begin to see, oh, you know, I really didn't act properly as a child. You know, I really didn't appreciate what was given to me and all I had. And then you move on in the meditation to how you relate to your older siblings and your younger siblings, you know, and the responsibility that as older siblings we have to younger siblings, and did we fulfill that responsibility, or did we just dismiss our younger brothers and sisters as a pain in the neck, or lead them into taking drugs and alcohol, or, you know, how did we treat the younger ones? Yeah, did we really help them? And if, you know, you're a younger sibling, how did you treat your older siblings? You know, did we benefit them, or were we, you know, tag-along nuisances? Yeah. And so this meditation really gets us to look very closely at our family relationships, also with our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, our school teachers, our fellow students, you know, and thinking about, you know, what are the usual responsibilities that people have in these roles, and did we fulfill our responsibility? And it's a very, very humbling meditation. Very humbling. And it helps us to see that, you know, generating bodhichitta does not mean that we're some kind of great, marvelous, noble beings. Actually, generating bodhichitta is the only thing we can do as a responsible adult to repay the kindness we've received. There's no possible other way to do it. So it's very humbling in that respect, you know, and really gets us to do a lot of purification about our bad deeds towards other sentient beings in this life, and then, needless to say, in other lives as well. So I found it quite helpful. Maybe one day I should lead that meditation, yeah, and then we can do it. Yeah.
I found that after the sharing Dharma this Sunday, when you talked about forgiveness and apologizing, I went through a whole period where I forgave my parents. And then I realized after that sharing the Dharma that I needed to apologize. Which I had never even had in my scope of all of my mistreatment and disrespect over the years with my parents. So it was a two-way street.
Yeah. Okay, so saying that you saw that you had to, you got to the point where you could forgive your parents for things that had happened when you were kids. And then after a while you realized that you had to apologize to them too. and that apologizing had never even entered your mind. Yeah. And I think that's very true. I mean, that's certainly what I have figured out as well. My mother used to remind me of things that I needed to apologize to her. Things that I did that were really bratty, that, you know, even when I was older, there was one thing. She said, I invited this boy I was dating, I was invited him and his family over to my parents' house for dinner, and then I didn't show up. And I don't even remember it, but my mother used to remind me of it, you know, years later, frequently, because it was quite embarrassing for her. You know? So there was this, there were many other things too. And I used to just hate when she would, you know, say these things, you know, especially the ones that I couldn't remember. Selective memory here, you know. But then there were lots of other things that I did remember doing or not doing that I really needed to apologize for. Yeah. And to see, you know, not only our parents, our siblings, you know, in any positions when we're entrusted to help our younger siblings, when we're to help our older siblings, or, you know, how we relate to our teachers. Did we appreciate our teachers in grade school, or were we kind of naughty and rebellious? Yeah, and everything they went through to try and, you know, teach us something. And did we appreciate it, or did we all drop our rulers together at 10 o'clock? Remember those days, passing the note around? We were all going to do something naughty at the same time. Or, you know, screaming at our teachers, or who knows what. My geography teacher in my freshman year in high school, oh God, I was so awful to this man. I was reading Ayn Rand at the time. And oh, I just became so awful and gave him so many problems, you know. Just, yeah, really bad. So, you know, just thinking of, you know, here were people who were trying to help us and educate us and do something good, and we just created problem after problem for them.
And then the children around the world would die to get an education.
Yeah, and children, yeah, in other parts of the world who would give anything to have an education, and how little we appreciated our free education. Yeah. So, you know, when we think about this, it really, it helps a lot in generating bodhicitta. It removes a lot of those arrogant obstacles, the obstacles of arrogance in our minds.